the spiritual aspect of a narcissist. So, you know, I was looking at stats today, and it used to be 1 in 10, you know, basically 10% of the population that is narcissistic. And then now it's at 20%, you know, which is quite a huge leap just within a couple of years. So I'm looking at this spiritually, because if you look at it clinically, the pieces just don't fit together all the way. So I was looking at, you have 4 people in a family, or 2 people raising 4 children, let's put it that way. And they're completely normal people. They didn't abuse their child, they didn't spoil them, and then they get one that's narcissistic. Okay, then you have parents that are toxic and abusive, you know, and they have 4 children, and one comes out narcissistic. The rest are normal. So how does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. You know, so there's something else going on, and that would be in the spiritual realm. We have a spiritual warfare going on constantly between the angelic and the angelic dark angels. And in the dark angel side, just like on God's angelic side, there's rankings. So you have like the lower minions, okay? And they're the ones that just kind of scurry around and cause havoc, you know, as you go. And then you have the watchers, and the watchers are the ones that have watched the human race forever. So this is how they know how you'll react to certain things, certain buttons and stuff like that. It's not even a fishing game anymore. They know. And they know how to basically torture you. They use it for torture. Okay, so then you have the demonic, and the demonic are the ones that, there's certain demonic that will jump inside bodies. They like to live in bodies and control that body. It makes them feel good. And then you have the other ones that are basically just oppressing you, you know, and, you know, whispering these things in your ear, how you're no good, and, you know, really bad things. And they cause depression and all kinds of things, anxiety and all that. And so they say it starts, well, I guess it could start in childhood because you have bullies at school and stuff. So somewhere, some way along the line, there was a door open, a spiritual door open, and that let these demonic beings inside, you know, to cause these people to go in that way. This is the way I think. You know, they've either turned their backs from God, or maybe they played with a Ouija board or whatever. You know, that used to be, especially in my era, that was just a game, you know, and now we find out, of course, it's not. But at the time, you know, it was a game. So they've let this thing in, and it's following and oppressing them. And they learn that they want control and power. It doesn't matter even what kind of narcissist you are, they want that control and power. So they feed off of this, and they feed off of people giving them validation. It doesn't even matter what kind of validation it could be. You could yell at them, and they like it. You know, when they get a reaction out of you, whether it be happy or sad or whatever, you can see them, you know, have this like smile. You know, it makes them happy. They feed off this stuff, you know, just like the demonic would. The demonic, they love for people to be in pain, to torture them because they hate them. And so does the narcissist. The narcissist, I don't believe they are capable of love at this point with that demon. And with the demon, they're incapable of healing. You know, that's something that they need to get rid of before they can heal. And I do believe God is the one that can only heal a narcissist, because that takes a change of heart, you know, a soft heart, a human heart, you know, changing it from cold to love. And I think that that's the only way. But most narcissists, they don't believe in Christ. They don't believe in God. They're technically atheist. They believe that you die, you die. There is a lot of fakers out there, but you kind of know from their fruit, they're the praying narcissist. And they go into church like, look at me, I helped, you know, I did my service, you know, and I gave to the poor, you know. So, but technically I think they're all atheists. as far as believing in God and Christ and all that stuff. So at least I haven't met one that was Christ, because, you know, the fruit. So Christ-like, you know, you have to be Christ-like. So they're not, you know. So you have these people, and so they've already opened that door. So they hate people. They seriously hate people, but they need them to feed off of for their supply, you know, like a vampire sucking your energy, sucking your goodness right out of you. And then they take these characteristics to build on their false personality. So this false mask that everybody talks about is basically a front for who the monster is inside. And that monster inside is demonic. So they meet you, they love bomb you, and they do, like, you can see little red flags, and you have a gut feeling and you know there's something wrong with this person. The problem is, if you have never run into one, then it doesn't mesh. Like, you just keep thinking, well, you know, they're pretty good all the way around. I don't know why I'm focusing on this one thing. You know, we don't catch up so fast on it, but you learn. And then all of a sudden, you know, a switch goes off, and they treat you like they hate you, but they say they love you. You know, it's like, you know, a sword. You know? So, you know, two sides of the sword. So they sit there and go, now I love you, and then they treat you like crap, or they'll go cheat, or they'll hit you, or they'll yell at you, call you names the next day. They bring you flowers. I love you. I'm so sorry. I don't know what got into me. And it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And then when you really know is at the discard. Because at the discard, it's like, it's a person that you've never known in your life. They are so cold and so cruel and so mean that it just blows you away. It's like, who are you? You know, all they cared about was getting rid of you. And so they did, just like that. They wanted to move on because now they've drained everything good out of you. You're left so drained in a heap that you have nothing more to offer them. You probably at that point was not even willing to carry on a conversation with the person. And when they did yell at you, you just stared at them. And I was at that point going, oh my God, not again, you know? And so, you know, and then it's like they put you on a shelf, they discard you, they don't talk to you for a long time, sometimes, you know, years, sometimes it'll just be a month or whatever. It depends on if they could pick up that new toy, you know, later or right away. And if they can't, they'll bounce back. So it's all like, when you look at it, that's so demonic. So the lies, okay, so demons will lie to you. They're so evil. They will hurt you. They will actually, you know, make you see things, you know, and that's the other thing, is narcissists live in a fantasy world, you know, and they try to change your reality by gaslighting you to another reality that you know isn't right. But in their world, they truly believe their fantasy. Their fantasy that they are the most powerful. They are the best. They are, you know, just grandiose above everybody else. They live in this world where they actually think that they're a god. You know, everybody else don't understand them because he's smarter than everybody else, or she, you know, and I can manipulate you to do anything that I want you to do. And when it doesn't work, you've burst that bubble they have in their fantasy world. You know, a lot of them has mom issues and all that stuff, but, you know, I'm not even talking about that. It's like this spiritual warfare going on. And if you ever really paid attention, I worked for a couple of narcissists, and of course I got close to a couple others. But if you really pay attention, it's almost like they're struggling with a dual personality inside their brain. When they're in deep thought or just walking, you know, just kind of, they're just like roaming, you know, it's like so strange, but it's almost like there's a battle within them, you know, maybe the human form and the spirit form, or the spirit against the demonic, I'm not sure. But that's where I think that it's more spiritual than it is, psychological. And that's why they can't heal them, because seriously, they need to come to God. That's the only way they can get better. Now, for us on our side, we can recognize this, but we got to also recognize that these are things that we have to get away from. We need to stay children of the light, and God will protect us, and He will, which brings me to another thing about the spiritual warfare. I don't know if you ever saw these things, but I did in these relationships with different sorts of narcissists. But there'd be weird stuff happening around you. And you'd go, huh, that's kind of weird. I literally saw this candlestick. It was mounted on a wall. And it flew off the wall like 5 feet. It was just the weirdest thing. For no reason. There was no wind or anything. So I'm like, wow, that was weird. And another time a dove flew into the fireplace. That was really weird too. And of course, he survived because we got him out. But it was just very weird. I saw pipes literally unscrewed. They were fine the day before, and then the next day you turned on the water and it just flooded the floor. Because the pipes, they weren't broke. They were unscrewed. It was the weirdest stuff. Just stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen it, but that's a sign of spiritual warfare. These weird things, because when you think about it, you have the good angels and the bad angels, let's put it that way, the demonic and the angelic, and they're fighting against each other during this time, because like I said, you're a child of the light. So it starts even a warfare around you. And I think those are signs of that, because some odd things start happening. And it's like I can visualize fighting with swords and stuff all the way around me. I don't know if they do that. Well, I don't think they use machine guns. So So anyway, I think that's my synopsis. I hope you agree. I mean, it might sound like kind of far out there, but the only way that we can really stay away from these people in the future is notice the red flags in front of it, trust your gut feeling, and pray. Pray that God guides you to stay away. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.